Hello, and welcome to ClinicAid. In this tutorial video, we'll be going over some custom user preferences that you can save into your account to help you bill faster. We will cover how to save and set favorites lists for service and diagnostic codes. We'll also look at setting up trigger codes to help you keep on top of your billing opportunities. We'll show you how to set up default invoice templates, as well as create and edit patient quick forms. And we'll also look at other default patient and claim settings. If you're not yet set up and somewhat familiar with your ClinicAid account, we recommend viewing our other tutorial videos first. You can find these and other resources in our customer support portal. Let's get started. One of the easiest ways to speed up your billing is to set a default provider in your ClinicAid account. This feature is particularly useful if you are the only provider in the account, or if the majority of the billing you do has the same provider details. For example, if you are regularly working at the same clinic or hospital using the same skill and location codes. Setting up a default provider will pre-fill the provider section when creating an invoice, saving you from having to select a provider each time. You can easily change this setting at any time by removing the provider or choosing a different default provider. If your schedule varies widely, you can choose to not have a default provider saved and instead select the correct provider each time you create a new invoice. In this case, it might be easier to set up multiple provider records in your account, each with the applicable details. Alternatively, you can create different default invoice templates with varying provider details for quick and easy selection. Default invoice templates come in handy when you are billing for similar claims often, but not frequently enough as to set the details as your default information. This feature is especially useful if you work at multiple locations or under different skill codes, or if you bill a certain set of codes frequently, or in any other case where you find yourself entering the same information and are looking for a way to speed this up. Default invoices are created in the Preferences section on the left-hand menu. Select whether you're creating a province billing or private billing form using the tabs at the top of the screen. We'll create a new provincial billing form in Alberta for this example, but this feature should work exactly the same for our BC and Ontario users. Give your form a name that you can easily identify and create the new form. Then click the blue pencil icon to edit the form and input the appropriate information. For this example, we'll change the provider information using the Advanced tab. We will edit the facility number and skill code so that it matches the type of billing this provider needs to complete for these bills. If that's all the information you need to save for this default invoice, simply hit the Save button. You can then try out the default invoice by going to the Create Invoice section, selecting this default invoice from this drop-down menu here, and filling out the appropriate patient and code information for this particular bill. You can verify the information has changed in the Advanced tab. You'll see that it differs from the information filled out in the Provider section, thanks to our default provider setting. Another handy way to use default invoice templates is to set particular codes that you bill together often. We'll go back to our default invoice that we've just set up and edit it to pre-fill two particular service codes. Add the correct codes as line items, save the default invoice, and go back to the Create Invoice section to see the changes. Once you select the template from the drop-down now, you should see the service codes you've saved appear on the bill automatically. Then you can just add in the correct patient and save or send the bill. Please note that the service date for the codes will autofill to the current date. So if the service was done on a different date, you'll need to edit the line items to reflect that before saving or sending the bill in for assessment. You can make as many default invoice templates as you need. You can also set a default invoice template as primary. This means that invoices you create after saving this setting will have this information pre-filled, so you won't have to select the default invoice template from the drop-down menu each time. You can also share default invoice templates between providers in your account using the Share button, and you can choose what order your default invoices are displayed in the drop-down using the Order feature. You'll have probably noticed by now that there is a Favorites section that appears when you are completing service and diagnostic codes in your claims. You can set up various favorites lists for quick and easy access to the codes you use most often, so that you don't have to search for or fill them in each time you bill. Favorites lists are also set up in the Preferences section in the left-hand menu. Service code lists can be set up by giving the new group a name and creating the list. You can then hit the pencil icon to edit the group and add favorites codes to it. Search for service codes in the same way as you would when creating an invoice by either typing in letters or numbers into the search field, and click on the codes you'd like to add to your list. As you click on them, you should see them getting added on the left side. Hit the blue Update Group button to save the list, and keep in mind that you can change the order of the codes displayed by using the Order feature. Back in the Create Invoice screen, you should now see your brand new list of favorite service codes displayed. The same functionality works for diagnostic codes. Add a new group, edit the group to add your favorites codes using the search field, and update the group to save the list. On the Create Invoice screen, you'll see your new list of favorite diagnostic codes appear automatically once you reach the first diagnostic code box. You can create as many favorites lists as you need, especially useful if you're working under a different skill code often. When you are on the Create Invoice screen, you can switch between favorites lists using this drop-down menu. Lists can be set as primary for provincial or private billing using the buttons shown, and can be shared among providers in the account using the Share button. An additional thing to note for service code favorites lists is the next tab over labeled Trigger Codes. Trigger codes allow you to set up a group of service codes that will be automatically billed for each time the trigger service code is used. You can add trigger codes by creating a new group, editing the group to add the codes you need using the search field, and setting a service code in the group as the trigger using the Set as Trigger button. This will automatically add the other service codes in the group as line items to an invoice when you use the trigger service code on a claim. Under Preferences, you'll also notice a Settings section. This is where you can set additional settings to customize your account. For example, you can choose to retain a diagnostic code when billing for multiple service codes. This will save the diagnostic code you choose when first creating an invoice for any additional service codes you add as multiple line items, so that you don't have to select the diagnostic code again. You can also choose to save or clear the service date selected in the calendar each time you create a new line item, depending on your preferences for the type of billing you do. In this section, you're also able to set defaults for patient creation. For example, if you only do billing as an OBGYN, you can save a default gender of female so that any new patients you create in your account will have this field pre-filled. This is also where you can disable the birth date acknowledgement that ClinicAid will display when you don't complete a patient's birth date. You can choose to create custom patient quick forms as well. This quick form is the shortened version of the complete patient profile that you access when clicking on Quick Patient in the Manage Patients section, or when clicking the plus sign on the Create Invoice screen. You can edit the default form, which should be set as the primary already, to include or remove fields, depending on what information you are generally required to complete on your claims. You'll notice that some fields, like first name, last name, and health number, cannot be removed based on the minimum amount of information required by your provincial assessment body. Add or remove the fields you want and update the quick form to save your changes. You should already have a default out-of-province form set up in your account as well. Simply select this form from the drop-down menu in the top right corner of the Quick Patient window when using the quick form to add a new out-of-province patient. This section also has a Schedules tab that allows you to customize your scheduling module. You can find out more about how this works in our tutorial video dedicated to scheduling. We hope you're now familiar with the various settings and preferences in ClinicAid that can help you speed up your billing process. If you have any questions or would like some additional resources, please consult our customer support portal. You can find this using the handy links in your ClinicAid account. Also, feel free to get in touch with one of our support staff for further assistance. Thanks for watching, and happy billing!